Have you ever loved someone who could never love you back? It's a quiet kind of suffering. No dramatic ending, no clear resolution, just the slow realization that what you feel will never be returned. At first, you hold on. You convince yourself that maybe they just don't see it yet. Maybe with time they'll understand. So you analyze every interaction, searching for signs, reading between lines that don't exist. You build a story where one day things will change, but they don't. Because love is not something that appears out of persistence. It's either there or it isn't. The hardest part isn't their indifference. It's what it does to you. The way it makes you question yourself. Am I not enough? Did I do something wrong? You replay every moment, looking for a different outcome, as if love were a puzzle you could solve. But it isn't. And the more you chase what isn't meant for you, the further you drift from yourself. The truth is simple. Their inability to love you has nothing to do with your worth. It's not a reflection of who you are. It's just reality. And accepting that reality is the first step to detaching, to moving forward, to freeing yourself from something that was never truly yours. Holding on won't change anything. Letting go will. Love, when unreturned, becomes something else entirely. It stops being about the person and turns into an idea, one that keeps you trapped. At some point you convinced yourself that this person was meant for you. Maybe it was the way they made you feel, the connection you thought you had, or the hope that given enough time they would finally see you. But was it really them you loved? Or the version of them you created in your mind? This is where most people get stuck. You don't love them. You love what they represent. You love the potential, the possibility, the idea that if circumstances were different, they would love you back. You cling to the fantasy because it feels safer than accepting the truth. This love only exists in your mind, and illusions are dangerous. They make you ignore the signs, justify the distance, excuse the indifference. They keep you waiting for a future that will never come. But here's the question you need to ask yourself. How long are you willing to wait for something that may never happen? The mind is wired to seek closure, to make sense of things. But in love, not everything has an answer. Some people won't love you back, not because you lack something, but because their heart simply doesn't align with yours. No amount of time, effort, or patience will change that. So why do we cling? Because detachment feels like loss. Because deep down we believe that if we let go, we'll have to face the emptiness they leave behind. But here's the truth. That emptiness was already there. They just distracted you from it. It's not about them. It never was. It's about what they symbolized in your life. Maybe they made you feel wanted. Maybe they filled a space of loneliness. Maybe they represented the validation you were searching for. But if love is real, it doesn't require convincing. It flows freely. This is the illusion, the belief that if you just try harder, wait longer, love deeper, they will wake up one day and realize they love you too. But love doesn't work like that. You cannot earn someone's heart by sacrificing yourself. The harshest truth is also the most liberating one. If they were meant for you, you wouldn't have to chase them. And the moment you stop chasing the illusion, you start reclaiming your power. The time, the energy, the emotions you've poured into something that isn't real. Imagine what would happen if you redirected it all toward yourself. Imagine who you could become if you stopped giving your power away to someone who never asked for it. It's time to step back, to see things for what they really are, not what you wish them to be. You are not losing anything by accepting reality. You are freeing yourself. Love is not something that happens because you want it to. It's not a result of persistence, nor is it a prize for effort. Love is a choice, freely given, never forced. But when someone doesn't choose you, You resist that truth. You try to prove your worth, to show them that you are enough, that they should love you if only they saw you differently. You stay not because they give you love, but because you believe that one day they will. This is the trap. You think if you hold on long enough, something will change, that if you love them the right way, they will realize they've been wrong all along. But here's what no one tells you. Real love does not require proof. A person who truly wants you won't need convincing. They won't hesitate. They won't be uncertain. They won't treat you like an option. Love, in its purest form, does not live in confusion. And yet, you've stayed in the uncertainty, stayed in the hoping, stayed in the waiting. Why? Because leaving feels like admitting defeat. Because walking away means letting go of the story you created in your mind. You tell yourself that if they didn't care, they wouldn't respond to your messages. If they didn't feel something, they wouldn't keep you around. But attention is not love. Mixed signals are not love. The fact that you have to wonder at all, that is your answer. And the reality is, the longer you hold on, the more you betray yourself. There is no satisfaction in forcing someone to love you. Even if one day they finally did, it would not feel the way you imagine. Because love that comes from obligation is not love. It's a transaction, a compromise, an arrangement built on fear and guilt, not genuine affection. You deserve a love that is certain, a love that is clear, unwavering and freely given, not one that you have to beg for, not one that makes you feel like you are always one step away from being enough. But detachment feels impossible when your heart is still invested. You are holding on, not just to the person, but to the belief that if you let go, you are giving up. But giving up on someone who does not choose you is not failure, it is self-respect. And the hardest part of detaching is accepting that someone's inability to love you is not a problem you need to solve. It's simply a truth you need to face. Once you see that, everything changes. You stop waiting. You stop proving. You stop hoping for something that was never yours to begin with. Because love is not an obligation, it is a choice. And if they did not choose you, then now, it's time to choose yourself. There is a difference between loving someone and being emotionally attached to them. Many mistake one for the other, but attachment is not love. It is fear. Love is freedom, a force that flows without resistance. Attachment is dependence, a need that clings to something outside of you for fulfillment. And when you are attached to someone who does not love you back, what you are truly holding on to is the fear of facing yourself without them. Think about it. If you truly love them, wouldn't you want them to be happy, even if that happiness didn't include you? But attachment does not work that way. Attachment is possessive. It whispers, "I need you to love me so I can feel whole." But love is not supposed to make you feel less than. It should never make you feel like you need to earn your place in someone's life. Yet, when you are attached to someone emotionally, you accept the bare minimum. You cling to their occasional kindness, their small acts of attention, mistaking them for something deeper. You are not in love. You are in need. And that's the part that's hardest to accept. When you are attached, their rejection doesn't just hurt. It feels like a direct attack on your worth. You start believing that if they can't love you, no one will. That something about you is unlovable, broken, not enough. But the truth is much simpler than the stories you tell yourself. Their love or lack of it has nothing to do with your value. Love is a mirror. The way you let someone treat you reflects the way you see yourself. If you continue holding on to someone who does not value you, what does that say about the way you value yourself? Letting go isn't about forgetting them. It's about remembering you. It's about understanding that your worth is not measured by someone else's inability to love you. You may believe that without them, something will be missing. But that's the illusion of attachment. The emptiness you fear is not their absence. It is the space where your self-worth should have been all along. And the only way to fill that space is to let go of the attachment and reclaim yourself. Because love is not a transaction, it is not a negotiation, and it is certainly not something you should have to beg for. Have you ever noticed how emotional attachment feels less like love and more like addiction? You tell yourself that you'll move on, that you'll stop thinking about them, but then suddenly they do something small, reply to a message, smile at you in passing, mention something personal, and you're back where you started. It's as if your mind has been trained to search for any sign of hope, any validation that maybe, just maybe, they care more than they show. And so, you hold on, waiting for another moment, another fix, another reason to stay. But this isn't love. This is dependency, and the only way to truly detach is to break the cycle. Letting go isn't about willpower alone. It's about cutting off the emotional supply that keeps you hooked. You replay memories as if they mean something more than they did, scrolling through old messages, analyzing every word, looking for hidden meaning where there is none. You check their social media, hoping for a sign, reading into their posts, convincing yourself that something they wrote was meant for you. And when you don't find what you're looking for, you create justifications, telling yourself they're just afraid, that they're confused, that deep down they must feel something. But all of this is an illusion designed to keep you stuck. If you want to detach, you have to stop feeding it. No more indulging in fantasies disguised as possibilities. No more assigning meaning to things that don't matter. No more making excuses for why they never choose you. Your mind will fight back. It will tell you that if you just wait a little longer, if you just prove yourself one more time, they will see what they've been missing. You will feel a deep resistance to letting go, because somewhere inside, you still believe that moving on means losing something important. But ask yourself, if they truly valued you, would you be questioning your worth like this? If you met them today, exactly as they are, would you still chase them? Or are you only chasing what you wish they were? Be honest, because the answer is the key to your freedom. Detachment isn't just about removing them from your life. It's about rewiring the way you respond to their absence. Every time you feel the urge to reach out, stop. Take a breath. Ask yourself if contacting them will bring you peace or just temporary relief before the pain sets in again. Every time you feel rejected, remind yourself that their absence is not a loss. It is space for something better. Every time you start to romanticize them, stop and remember one moment when they made you feel unseen, unwanted, or unimportant. The version of them you're holding on to is not real. What's real is the way they made you feel when you weren't chasing them. This is not about them. It never was. It's about you. About the version of yourself that you abandoned in the process of trying to be enough for someone who never saw your worth. Who were you before this? What dreams, what ambitions, what parts of yourself have been neglected because you were too busy trying to be chosen? Letting go is not about forgetting them. It is about remembering you. And the moment you do, everything will change because you will finally see that they were never the missing piece. You were. You may think that detaching from someone who won't love you back is about forgetting them, about suppressing every memory, pushing aside every lingering thought. But detachment is not erasure. It is not about pretending they never mattered. It is about removing their power over you, shifting the focus away from them and back to yourself. For too long, your happiness has been tied to their actions. The way they look at you, the words they choose, their presence or absence, it has dictated how you feel, how you see yourself. When they give you attention, even in the smallest way, it feels like validation. When they pull away, you feel lost again, trapped in the cycle of waiting for them to care. But what if your sense of worth was no longer attached to them? What if your emotions were no longer at the mercy of someone who gives so little? There is a freedom that comes when you finally stop looking to them for answers. When you stop trying to decode their mixed signals, stop searching for signs in their behavior, stop hoping that someday something will change. Because nothing needs to change except your willingness to let go of what was never truly yours. Reclaiming your power means understanding that love is not something you have to chase. It is not something that requires sacrifice, nor is it a prize for enduring neglect. The love you are seeking has always been within you, waiting to be acknowledged, waiting to be enough on its own. But as long as you keep searching for it in someone who cannot give it, you will continue to feel empty. This is the moment when you choose something different. Not because it's easy, not because the feelings will disappear overnight, but because you deserve better than the exhaustion of waiting for something that will never come. It will hurt, but not forever. The absence you fear will become the space where something new can grow. When you release what is not meant for you, you make room for what is. Not just in love, but in every part of your life. And one day, when you look back, you will see that losing them was never really a loss. It was the beginning of finding yourself again. There is a moment when everything becomes clear, not all at once, but in pieces, in quiet realizations that begin to stack until they form the truth you can no longer ignore. This person was never truly yours to lose. What you were holding on to was not love, but the idea that one day they would see you differently, that they would wake up and recognize what was in front of them, but they didn't, and they won't. Not because you are not enough, but because love is not something that can be forced into existence. You have spent so much time hoping for something that was never certain, waiting for a shift that never came. You built them up in your mind, convinced yourself that if you just held on long enough, things would change. But love does not arrive through persistence. It is either present from the start or it never truly appears. And now, you stand at the edge of a choice. Keep waiting, keep hoping, keep trying to be enough for someone who has already shown you where they stand, or walk away. Not because it is easy, but because you deserve more than this endless uncertainty. Loving someone should never come at the cost of losing yourself. You have given enough energy to someone who was never willing to meet you halfway. You have made excuses, rationalized their distance, convinced yourself that one day they will understand what they lost. But the truth is, the only person who needs to understand something right now is you. They are not the answer. They were never the answer. They were just a detour, a lesson, a moment in your life that led you back to yourself. There is nothing left to wait for. No words that will change what has already been decided. No grand gesture that will suddenly rewrite the story. What remains now is you. The version of you that deserves to be free from the weight of this one-sided longing. The version of you that deserves a love that does not require waiting, does not leave you questioning, does not make you feel like you must fight to be chosen. You have spent enough time holding on. Now, it is time to let go, not because you have to, but because you finally love yourself enough to do so.